Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Me and Liam are here for the Q&A episode. So a couple of weeks ago we put a post out asking all you lovely people for your questions, whether they were related to the channel or not, and we're going to go through them today. One thing I'll say before we get started though is that we are just going to keep it to one question per person. I know that some of you asked multiple questions, but in the interest of fairness and time, we're just going to stick to the one question. So let's get going, shall we? So we're starting off with Hulalol, I think that's pronounced right, who says, what actors would you like to see in a DPA game?
Oh, that's a really good question, Hulalol. I guess I don't really have a favorite actor off the top of my head. Actress, I'd love to see. Yeah, I guess actress, I'd love to see Emma Stone. Why not get her to branch into video games? And for actor, I'd love to see Ewan Ryan. He's the guy who plays Simon in Misfits or Ramsay Bolton in Game of Thrones. I think that would be a really interesting one. But yeah, really good question.
I could see that. I suppose for me, I think if we're sticking with the whole Scream thing, because obviously Hayden Panettiere, she's in Scream, she was in Until Dawn. Same with David Arquette, who of course is in The Quarry. Who knows, maybe get Courtney Cox in there for a game, see how that works. I think another actor I'd like in there that's got some sort of horror background is Mads Mikkelsen. He played Hannibal in a TV series, but of course he's also played a Bond villain. And then as an outside shout, I've got David Tennant. So that I feel like they'd have to blow a lot of their budget on these actors.
Yeah. You know what, as well, for the
can-
memes, I would love to see Danny DeVito as well, but that's just dreamland.
All right, so we're going to move on to Introvert Vibes' question, who says, what haunted or historical places do you think would make for a good setting for a DPA game if the characters we're playing as were dealing with something supernatural / paranormal?
You know what, I don't know if it's touching a little too close to House of Ashes here, but I quite like my Egyptian mythology, so I'd love to see something set in Egypt where you've got a desert kind of vibe to it, and then you've got loads of stuff to do with all the gods, whether it's Ra or Anubis, sphinxes in the background. I just think that would be sick. So I'm going to go with Egyptian mythology to answer your question there, Introvert.
No way, I've literally got pyramids written down here.
Hey, there we go. Well, we agree on that one. That's sick. But there you go, Introvert. We've got Egypt is where we want our game to be set.
Yeah, I think honestly, there was a couple of others that come to mind as well. So for me, I've put Pompeii down. I think, obviously the devastation of Pompeii, you can imagine sort of any ghosts of people from that time. I've also just put Tower of London down as well. I can imagine the prologue, it being very sort of very regal, very old time, kings and queens sort of thing. You could have deaths in there with the guillotine and stuff like that. I think that would be a really cool location. But yeah, really good question, Introvert. So moving on to the awesome dude who says, would you guys be interested in seeing an IP season? As in, take a well-known horror title like A Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th, and turn them into DPA games. By the way, massive fan of you two, and I love watching your content. Keep up the great work, guys.
A very awesome question for a very awesome dude. I mean, I would love that. Obviously, yeah, it's very difficult, because you got to get a hold of things like licensing. But as someone who's a big horror fan, and my favorite horror film is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I would love a Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. Obviously, Supermassive Games are massive on, taking a folklore thing, whether it's Wendigos or the Orang and Medan, which are actual, folklore things. I reckon they could do it. Obviously, you'd be a lot more restricted because you would have to honor the series and the film or whatever. But yeah, I would love a game set in rural outback, USA, where there's cannibals going around and you're a group of 5 and your choices can affect one another. So yeah, that would be my answer for that one, mate.
I've got to admit, I'm a little bit halfy on this one, because if they did do it, I'd want them to almost do like an original story. I wouldn't want them to just copy, one of the films or something. But then I'm asking myself that I want something original. So why wouldn't I just want things to carry on as they are? But again, I do see the appeal because they make the point of it might pull more people into the Dark Pictures anthology, and that gives it positive reception, stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm a little bit on the fence with that one, to be honest.
It's a bit like how we are with Quantic Dream about to tackle a Star Wars series, right? We're on the fence about that, and it could be the same if Supermassive Games did a similar leap.
That is literally it, mate. So, I mean, we've now got a question from Casey's Repository, who said, what would you think of a season 3, and what genres do you think would be good for it if it was to come in the next 5 to 6 years? This is a tough one, because if we're talking about season 3, we're probably, it's going to be starting in the next 5-6 years, and I just wonder if the video game scene by then, whether they'd, I'm guessing there'd still be an audience for these games, but would the formula have burned out by then? Me personally, I think on paper right now, I would like to see a season 3. But there's also another part of me that would want to see different genres, and I'm not talking about different subgenres of horror. I'm talking about crime, for example. I'd love for them to start doing some like crime games like they did with Hidden Agenda. So yeah, I'm sort of like hesitantly saying yes, but at the same time, I do think to myself, maybe it could have lost its sort of momentum by that point. I don't know about you, mate.
Honestly, I'm pretty sure you stole the words right out of my mouth there. Like, I was gonna say, if not horror, probably crime. We know they can do it. Hidden Agenda was a really interesting concept. Honestly, I'm just gonna echo what you said, mate. I'm in agreement.
Sweet. So we're gonna move on to Cade's comment now, who says, if you could do an interview with any actor from any of the Supermassive games, who would it be?
I have to pick Rami Malek. The guy's an Oscar winner. I loved his performance in Bohemian Rhapsody. He killed it as Josh Washington. Probably the best performance, within maybe a Supermassive game, but definitely Until Dawn. Yeah, Rami Malek for me.
Yeah, I've got to admit, he's the first name I put down as well, and I feel like it's probably double reason like why I picked him, because obviously the main reason would be to talk about Until Dawn and such, but of course he was a Bond villain as well, so I'd naturally want to get that in there. But I would also like to interview maybe Paul Kaye and Ted Raimi as well, because they're the people that they played in The Quarry and The Devil in Me. They're like some of my favourite characters, so yeah, it'd be great to talk to them. So we've now got one from Dark Tiger, who says, one thing that I've always wondered, and I'd love to hear what you guys think, is do you think all the games in the Dark Pictures anthology are all linked and telling one big story? I don't just mean the curator, I mean the stories themselves.
Oh, that is a really tricky one, and I have thought about it myself, but I'm very much one of those people who sits back and waits for them to kind of do it, so I can kind of get graced with a surprise. I mean, yeah, they are all somewhat linked with the fact that the curator's in all of them, right? But I'm unsure. I'm sorry, mate, but I'm gonna have to sit on the fence and say I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if it was executed right, then I'd be down for it. I wouldn't want it to be like a writing decision last minute. I wouldn't want them to get to a certain point and be like, oh my god, we could weave all these together. Because there is a narrative, isn't there? I've seen it online where you've got the ship that crashes, the alien ship from House of Ashes, and then you can get the stuff, it then becomes the Manchurian gold, and that then gets developed and weaponized, and that's what we see in the future days, maybe for Winterfold, or do you know what I mean? It could be become sort of like zombie drug or something like that. I don't know. I've seen little murmurings of that. To be honest though, I think the beauty of an anthology is that they are self-contained stories. So while I'm open to it, it would almost be under certain conditions. So I'd perhaps lean towards just keep them as their own individual story at the end of the day.
Yeah, because I mean, to kind of build on that, there is that beauty, isn't there? Like, if it is separate, you're less restricted because, you know, you could do more with the stories. But also, I just like the idea that the curator has his library and he has separate stories and these separate books in his repository. So, yeah, I fully agree with that comment, mate.
Right, so we're going to move on to Bazooka now, who says, which games out of all 4 DPA games, Until Dawn and The Quarry, do you think you have the highest probability of surviving the night?
I love that question. That
Yeah.
is fantastic. House of Ashes is a definite no, right? I mean, like
Yeah.
vampire bats, I'm getting battered there. Devil in Me, probably not because you're in a serial killer's trap.
Yeah.
It's got to be one of the other two, right? Because at the end of the day, it's kind of it's all in their heads, right? So it's just almost about mental will and. I'm trying to think. It's got to be between Man of Medan and Little Hope, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, Until Dawn and The Quarry, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like there is still threats. Like, I mean, the werewolf and the Wendigo can still get into the house or the lodge, can't it? So even if you just sat in the lodge all night, you're still at risk. My vote was going to be Little Hope because literally it's all in someone's head. So I wouldn't actually be there. I think I'd survive quite easily. So
Little Hope's tough to say because at the end of the day, it's just one guy. So it's like if we're the bus driver, then his like trip is so severe that like maybe not as well. I'm almost leaning towards Man of Medan, you know, because
yeah,
at the end of the day, if the ship is just nothing's going on, you're just hallucinating. Then like as long as you went out and you got that fresh air, there are like sort of safe spaces on the ship. So I might have to go Man of Medan myself.
I think I'm leaning the same way. The only thing that I'm slightly hesitant of is that my radio skills are piss poor. I ain't got a fucking clue. So like, I'd probably, pop outside every now and then so that I was okay. But then in terms of getting help from the outside world, I'd be pretty dependent on others. So yeah, I mean, I'll pick Medan, but like, it's a pretty tough call with all of the others. Okay, so Tatjana says, what are your personal top 5 choice-based games? I think I've got 3 in mind, that being Until Dawn, Detroit Become Human, and Heavy Rain, which to be fair, me saying Detroit and Heavy Rain is quite bold because I've only done one playthrough of each of them games. But if I'm comparing them against the likes of, Telltale, do you know what I mean? Like even a couple of the DPAs, there's no contest in my eyes. So I feel like they would be a 3. Maybe I want to say Walking Dead Season 2. I do somewhat prefer that to Season 1. Maybe I'm just going to have to pick The Devil in Me, I really don't know. But I feel like I'm missing one that's so glaring. Maybe Life is Strange Season 1 deserves a shout, but I'm probably going to lean towards The Devil in Me, mate.
Yeah, it's tough because it's like I kind of have a 6 or a 7, but I'm going Until Dawn, Heavy Rain, Detroit Become Human, Life is Strange. Think I'm gonna go Fahrenheit, but
Ooh.
The Wolf. Yeah, Fahrenheit. It was probably the first ever choice-based game. It got me into the genre, so I pay massive respects to it. But like honorable mention to The Wolf Among Us.
Yeah, a lot of Quantic Dream love. Yeah. Okay, I think this is pronounced Cersei. Again, apologies for the pronunciation if not. So, as British YouTubers, do you think there'll be any legends or mythical creatures from Britain that you think would be cool as a potential villain? You know what? There is one that I do know about, and he's called Spring-Heeled Jack. And it's not just because my name's in there. But he was meant to be sort of like scouring the rooftops of Victorian London, and he's got some like big wings, and he can apparently that people saying, oh, he's fire, and he's got like these very piercing eyes and things. Maybe that would work because to be honest, I've always somewhat fantasized about a choice-based game involving Jack the Ripper. So maybe this would be like the closest thing if you're to use like a mythological creature or legend in a Victorian setting. Maybe it's this Spring-Heeled Jack. So yeah, that's my answer.
That's good. I feel a great question there, Cersei Lannister. I feel like I am kind of like breaking it a little bit by leaving Britain and going into Ireland here. But being, someone who associates himself as a Celt, I've got to go for like Celtic mythology again. So like whether it's banshees, leprechauns, that kind of thing. But like the one I'd love to see is a mythological creature called a Kelpie. I think that would be a really sick thing to have in one of these games.
Nice. So the next question's from Artisanal Egg, who asks, what tips would you recommend a first-time player of the DPA to make sure they get really immersed and have the best experience? I really like this question.
Yeah, no, really good question, Artisanal. I'd say change the difficulty to easy mode and just really have fun with it, At the end of the day, these games are amazing because you don't have to be brilliant at video games. So, like, whether there's the mode to turn off the heartbeat sequences, just go on easy mode, just have fun with it and make it your choices rather than, you killing people because, you struggle at quick time events. So yeah, no shame in, going for an easier run through. Just honestly enjoy the experience and, play the game first time for the story and the ride rather than the challenge.
I think for me, I've gotten into this question assuming that the player knows how to use like a PC keyboard and controller. So funnily enough, my answer is to make sure that you at least have it on medium difficulty, because if the QTEs are too easy, then you lose that immersion, that sense of jeopardy that I think is so important to these games, especially in like the horror genre. But we've already seen it in likes of Detroit Become Human. It can just elevate the experience and really sell the illusion that some of these choices matter. I think another tip is that I'd probably say be nice to everyone. It seems at this point that like if you're nice to people, there are nice outcomes in terms of keeping everyone alive. So it's not often that goes against you. So that would be another tip.
And don't fuck with nature unless you're playing the Quarry.
Yes, and that's also another great tip. I can't top that, so we'll leave it there. So we now have, is it Twepper, who's commented, what kind of innovation or change on the games' form would you like to see in the DPA's second season? Oh, I'm trying to remember back to that survey, mate.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'll link it in the description, so you can see below. But we put out a video saying 15 requests. Honestly, that says everything you want to hear. So rather than us answering it now, just honestly look at that great video because there is a lot. There's a lot to get through, but I've timestamped everything for you. But a lot of the stuff we really said is kind of maybe more face models, less glitches. I think we spoke about how we want to see more puzzles in these games. So honestly, knock yourself out of that video if you haven't seen it already. Because yeah, like honestly, in my humble opinion, I think we answered some spot on things that we'd love to see in these games.
Okay, so the next question's from Brian, who asks, what do you guys think of my story idea on the farm for a potential future game? I left it in the suggestion part on Discord.
Yeah, no, we've read that, Brian, and we absolutely love it, but we don't want to elaborate on it because we DM us because we'd love for you to come on the channel sometime, maybe voice it. If you don't want to appear on the channel and you don't want to reveal your voice, that's fine, we can work around it. But yeah, honestly, the reason we've kept this quiet is because we think it merits its own video.
Stacey's mum has asked, would you like DPA to be longer than 2 seasons?
I mean, we sort of answered a little bit before. I don't know. Like, it really depends what they do with the curator. Yeah. It really depends, like you say, because, like, 4 years would have passed, right? Maybe. So, like, a lot can change between now and then. So we have to sit on the fence of this one, right? And ask maybe. Because, yeah, I would love more of that content, but maybe it dries out, So, like, I don't want to be too just over-eager and just yell out yes off the top of the hills, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I'm honestly of the same opinion, to be honest. So then next question from Javon Scruggs. What is your preferred type of monster for a game or movie? A creature that's more animal-like, but clearly intelligent and takes joy in tormenting its victims? A supernatural monster, or a straight animal who's hungry, or some sort of mixture? I think for me personally, It's a good question because I see merit in both. I find humans more scary than creatures. I think that's why I think that the whole serial killer thing appeals to me more. I think it's more scary when they do wear a mask. I think honestly, like Josh from Until Dawn is like the psycho, perfect example. But there is something as well about just the savagery of an animal that you can't reason with. It's taking like the creatures from House of Ashes. You can't sit down and talk your way out of it, can you? If you fuck up, they're gonna rip your throat out. So, it's a tough call. I think I'll go for the intelligent one.
I'm gonna have to give such a wishy-washy answer and say, just honestly, if it's with the anthologies that I'd like variety. I love the fact that although Man and Medan Little Hope were a little similar, House of Ashes gave us like giant vampire bat creatures, and then The Devil in Me gave us a grounded serial killer. So honestly, I can't really say. It would be cool to get like a nice mythological one next. So if I had to pick any, I'd go for kind of like maybe the supernatural type. But then again, if it's anthologies, just honestly, variety is my answer.
So Dimitar asks, why did you decide to make a YouTube channel? Mate, I'll let you answer this first.
It's difficult to sort of say, and I want to keep it like brief, because like I could literally make a 15-minute video sitting down here telling you why. But we always voiced, didn't we, that like we started after the pandemic, and it really was a shame that we didn't do it beforehand, because we would have just had a lot more time and resources to have done it. But honestly, in short, we've always just kind of like messed about the idea of starting a podcast together, haven't we? And this is obviously a passion we both have, talking about these video games. We kind of saw a bit of a gap in the market in YouTube for it, because we didn't think enough people were speaking about these games. And honestly, just the moment we had an opportunity, we just jumped at it, really, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, honestly, all of the above. The only thing I'd add for me on a personal point of view is that I really just wanted to have like a little project, something to look forward to like throughout the week that I could get on with. And I know that Liam likes editing videos, and obviously we share this passion for these games. It was sort of a no-brainer, really. And like we said, it's obviously a disappointment that we didn't think of it during the pandemic, to be honest, because I think that would have been like a perfect time, because it was a tough time for a lot of people. So that's pretty much why we're here, Dimitar. So the next question's from CKM, who asks, favourite animals? Easy answer for me.
Go on, mate.
Honestly, I love all animals, I really do, but dogs are head and shoulders above the rest, in my opinion. There's just something about how loyal they are to you, how happy they are whenever you walk through the door, even if you've been gone for a couple of minutes. Just generally how loving they are. Like they want to be with you, like they're a pack animal. And I naturally, myself, I feel like I'm a pack animal. I don't really do well in big crowds or big groups. I like to have a small, intimate sort of like setting and like relationships and stuff. So dogs are honestly the perfect animal for me.
And mine's your mum. No, I'm kidding, right? No, for real, mine's I've got to go with the cat. I'm a cat person. I own a cat and a dog, but I've always owned cats. I've always like had a cat pet, so cats for me. If I'm going outside the box and I'm saying non-domestic though, I've got to go with the penguin, honestly.
Is penguins?
Always been a fan of them penguins.
Love it, not the swan, no?
Fuck that.
Nice.
Don't ask, guys, don't ask about that.
No, leave that. And Chase101 says, what's your opinion on the name Greg?
Is your name Greg? Because if so, it's a great name. We love the name Greg here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You can't, if his name's Greg, you have to be dead careful here. I mean, I'm going to completely dodge it and say that one of my this is going to sound so sad, but when I was at university, this is like a good eyes at the sort of uni student I was, For those that live in the UK, I mean, maybe elsewhere, I don't know if that's all like, global or whatever, but there's well-known shop, bakery chain called Greg's, and I would frequently visit them on a more or less daily basis when I was grabbing food at university. And it's funny because in Coventry, there's like 4 Greg's that are literally within a 5-minute walk of one another. And I distinctly remember one day going on basically what I call like a little Greg's crawl, where I went from one Greg's to the other buying something. It's like while other students are like going out, having like bar crawls and stuff, it'd be me just like on my way to a lecture, like just picking up a sausage roll and a cookie or something like that. So
I love that, yeah. So in summary, we love the name Greg.
Beautiful.
I'll host the Instagram section. So I mean, the Miracle Smooth Finish says, if you could interview anyone else on your channel of your choosing, who would you go for? Now, obviously, we've answered before about someone who, like, is in the DPA games. But let's just go dream. Let's just go more ambitious for the sake of answering this question. If you could answer anyone in the world, Jack, who would it be?
You know who I do think would be hilarious? And I wouldn't say he's an actor, but he has acted previously. Is Ricky Gervais.
Yeah?
Yeah. I know
that'd be a good one.
It would be a complete misfit, but like if you needed comic relief or something like that, I'd have Ricky Gervais, but it probably makes no sense, so that's why I'm not on the casting of Supermassive games.
No, I mean, for me, like, if I had to go completely biased, it would be Ellie Rousel from my favourite band, Wolf Alice. But if I'm thinking about it for the sake of the channel and for those sweet views, I would go for, the iconic porn star Riley Reid. She'd bring in a fuck ton of views.
Love it.
Next, we have Luke King Collins, who goes, who would win in a fight between you, and how quickly would Anya manage it? So, I mean, Jack's taller. He's a bit bulkier. So I think, if Jack and I were to fight about 10 times, I think Jack's winning 6 or 7 of them. But, I wouldn't rule me out, though, because I play dirty. I bite and shit and kick between the legs. So.
Fuck. But then, in terms of Anya, I feel like she'd have a lot of difficulty because obviously she'd be coming over from the US. So you could probably fit more than 10 fights in that time. I don't know, but who knows? Like she can KO us both. So
yeah, I feel like Anya would do Phoebe from Friends and just grab us both by the ear and like tell us to stop, and we would listen. So our last question here, Jack, is from Laura, and she asks, Jack, can you take the bins out, mate?
She's always nagging me. Yes, I know it's bin night. I'm literally going to do it once we've finished recording. Okay. Colson England asks, my favourite character is Emily from Until Dawn. Who is your favourite character from Until Dawn, Liam?
Oh, we've made a video on this. We'll link that below as well. This is what the video looks like. You know what? It fluctuates between Jess and Sam, but I'm going to have to go with my girl Jess.
Okay. I mean, for me, in terms of who I'd hang out with the most, very much what my Until Dawn ranking was based on, it would be Chris or Sam. I feel like I'd get on with both of them. If I'm talking about favourite character in terms of writing and just presence and everything, I'm going to have to go with Josh Washington. I think he was brilliantly acted and written. So, Azure Ali YouTube says, if you had to choose any Dark Pictures game, which one would you be in? And if you were in any situation, who would you be friends with or enemies with? Choose wisely.
It's like the lesser evil, right? Because realistically, we wouldn't want to be on any of those 4 situations.
False. Yeah. I mean, should we just base it on that we're going to survive?
You know what? Okay, in that case, I'll pick Man of Medan. I quite like, the whole ghost ship setting. I think it's, like, really cool. It probably highest chance of survival, considering a lot of it's in your head and you'd want to get fresh air and that. And who I'd hang out with, realistically, I'd probably get on the most with, like, maybe Conrad. I can see me and him having quite a lot of good banter. But yeah, like, if I want to be looked after, though, I'd go with Flish. She's a fucking badass. I think, nothing would touch me if I was next to her.
I'm going to have to go Man of Medan as well, I know that's a boring answer, I do apologise, but, like, I feel like I could almost sit in the middle of Brad and Conrad. I feel like I could, like, get on with both of them. Alex, I'm not too sure about. I don't know too much about the guy. He seems a little bit wooden. I feel like I'd get on with most of them actually in the Man of Medan crew. I feel like the one perhaps least likely is Julia. So yeah, I'll sit with that. Okay, so Cumberly asks, are you guys single? No.
And for me, I am single. I'm a part of the Forever Alone gang.
Okay, so Good asks, what do you think of an ending full of challenges in the Dark Pictures anthology? So this would include QTEs, conversation choice, action, puzzles, keep calms, etc. I'm certainly open to it because I think that you could argue that a lot of the DPA games towards the end are just very heavily QTE based. Maybe you could have some puzzles against the clock. I think that's something that could be really beneficial. They could have done it in The Devil in Me, but I suppose that they could take it forward in other games whereby you are against the clock and you've got to get this puzzle done, otherwise a character dies, and then you perhaps move on to the next one. So yeah, certainly anything that mixes up the formula but does it in the right way, I'm certainly open to it.
Yeah, no, I'd welcome that. Like you say, if it's a puzzle-based one like that, it could be proper like escape room style, right? Where maybe we have 15 minutes to get a good ending, and if we fail it, we end up getting a bad ending. It would certainly make a nice change rather than swinging an axe at Demet again and again or whatever. And you mentioned conversation there. That might be a cool one. What if we get to the end and we're just talking to someone, and then if we do one bit of bad dialogue, maybe that completely changes the complexion of what ending we're going to get. So yeah, it would be quite difficult to do on say Supermassive Games' front there, but yeah, really good ideas, they're good. So yeah, one that we'd be welcome to. Okay, so we're going to our Discord now, and we've got Cyborgs25 who says, what is your favourite non-choice based horror game series?
A lot of the horror games I play are in isolation, so I really enjoyed Outlast. I know that there's an Outlast 2, so I should probably get that. There's obviously the PT demo. I thought that was fantastic. And there's this game on Xbox Game Pass. Don't know if you guys have heard of it. I think I've told you about it, mate. It's called Visage, or Visage, I don't know how to pronounce it. A psychological horror game. And it's honestly, you could argue that it's like PT, but a full game. Because there are things in there that are genuinely scary. There's some great puzzle features in there as well that I could wax lyrical about, but I won't because obviously the video will go on for so long. But yeah, I wouldn't say I've got necessarily a favourite series, but just certain horror games in isolation.
Ah, very well. For myself, what Jack said about PT, definitely the scariest one I've played. I fucking hated that, especially because my friends didn't warn me I was playing a horror, they just threw me on it. And it really got me. If I have to go for a series, I'm a big fan of the Resident Evil series. Resident Evil 5 holds so much nostalgia to me. I've completed that game a zillion times, but the classic Resident Evil 1 will always hold good memories for me, especially the remastered edition. I thought they did a brilliant job. But if I have to pick an all-time favourite horror that isn't choice-based, I'm going to go with the little indie platformer known as Little Nightmares. It doesn't really fall into the realm of what we speak about on the channel, so it's not one I've really been able to cover or talk about, but I could rant about this game for so long. I absolutely love Little Nightmares. Everything about it, from the colouring, the setting, the music, to the different villains you get, to the eeriness of it. I'm a massive fan of Little Nightmares. Lastly, we have JC2002 here. Now, as we've said, we're only going to be picking one question. So what I reckon we do here to finalise the video, mate, is we pick a question each, maybe. That way we'll enlighten him a little bit. We'll answer a third of his questions.
Yeah. So yeah, alright. So JC asks, what genre of games are your guys' favourites besides horror? Now, for me, gimme crime. I love LA Noire. LA Noire is one of my favourite games ever. It ticks so many boxes for what I want. So I'm guessing that would fall under maybe action adventure. You could say crime, but I'm thinking, action adventure, open world. I like, your Red Dead Redemptions as well. I like playing GTA from time to time. I also do like my shooters. I've played a lot of the Call of Duties. when I was younger, I loved playing like the James Bond games. But then from time to time, I like to play your more simple puzzle games as well. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, like I can't think of like many off the top of my head, like just instantly, but I can tell you now a game I'm currently playing that I've always been a massive fan of since I was a kid is the Spyro series. So I fucking love that little purple dragon so much, man. The final one we'll answer is ideas or future projects for the channel and or server. I mean, I can't reveal too much because a lot of what we do is like we release surprises and stuff. But, you know, stay peeled for Tuesday, where you can see Michael Scott in one of our videos, you know, if you're a big fan of The Office. We have, you know, some special guests coming back for some, you know, videos we have. We even, like, have plans all the way up to, like, Halloween and stuff. And, you know, you can expect a lot more series back to analysis that, you know, we plan to do. But also, you know, like this year is really heavy on, you know, a Telltale front, you know, since Supermassive Games might not release, you know, a game this year. So really look out for The Expanse, where we'll be doing a lot of analysis and gameplay for that.
Wonderful stuff. So honestly, guys, thank you to each and every one of you that sent a question or questions into us. Some really good ones in there, and had a lot of fun answering them. So if you enjoyed this video, obviously hit the like. You know, I don't know what you'd comment, but, you know, if you want to, go ahead. And yeah, I mean, let us know if you want us to do this again at some point in the future. Anything to add, mate?
No, that's literally it. Everything from me. Thank you very much for everyone who posted questions in. You know, we spend a lot of time, you know, prepping, researching, and, you know, making videos about games. So, you know, it was kind of nice to just sit back on this one and just, you know, give you guys some time and answer them. I certainly have enjoyed myself. So thank you very much again.
Good stuff. Take care, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, guys. Have fun.